2, 1. And we're live, I hope. Okay, guys, thank you very much for your patience. I'll try and give you a rundown of what's happened tonight. This is what I believe is when there are oppository, I don't want to say negative, but oppository energies trying to stop us Lightworkers getting our message out to people. So I have my standard issue with my sound, which should be sorted. I've got a new webcam on its way, and then I should be able to do this on my main PC, which will solve the problems I have personally during doing live streams. However, tonight, it wasn't me that was having so many problems. It was literally everybody's been having problems on their end with their technology, every single one of us. And I've been having problems earlier today. I did some tarot readings live on my other channel, which you can get in the featured channels list on my homepage, Amber's Place. So I'm trying to do some live stream tarot readings on there, and I was having technical difficulties with that. And then with this live stream, every single one of us has had problems, and we're still having some problems. So I'm hoping this is going to work okay now. So thank you very much for bearing with us. And thank you very much for coming back. I have got a rundown from Darkwolf on what he discussed in the first part of the show about the new DNA changes, which I think is really interesting. But before I go on to that, I just want to introduce Julianne. Now, Julianne is somebody we've met recently on YouTube in a chat of another live stream. And we both happened to share profound experiences during a recent World Regression Day. So that's how I got speaking to her. Now, so I invited her to our chat forum where we keep in communication with each other on a daily basis on Discord, which again, there are invites to that on most of my videos and descriptions, and we'll include one tonight as well. And so we've been getting to know each other the last few days, and she's very awakened, she's very mature, she's got a lot of wisdom, we have a lot in common, and I would love her to share some of her experiences that she's interested in doing so on the live stream tonight, which is why I've invited her. So before we get back into the topics we were discussing and other ones, I'd just like to give Julianne the opportunity to speak to you, the viewers, and just to introduce herself to you. Please be gentle. It's her first time on a live stream. Fire away, Julianne.
Hey, everybody. Well, my name's Julianne, and I am an acupuncturist, and I've had a lot of out-of-body experiences. I like to use various modalities for healing. I'm really into the hypnosis, and that's something that Mel and I were talking about, wanting to be able to do the hypnosis. And she does these incredible meditations that I don't know, I went somewhere else, Mel. Anyway, yeah, and so like if there's anything that comes up, with, the out-of-body stuff, I mean, I'm happy to jump in about those types of things, and really interested in Mandela effect and have noticed them. I mean, the first thing that hit me about that was the Lion and the Lamb. Just, I mean, as a kid, just loving that picture. So, anyways, I'm here and I'm happy I'm here, and thanks so much for inviting me, and this is going to be fun. I was really enjoying it earlier, and now we're going to get back into it. So let's go.
Thank you. Thanks. I'm glad to have you. And before we go back to the other topics, I would just like to, as well, extend my love and appreciation and a huge, huge thank you to Michelle for carrying the first part of the show. She did an incredible job, and we've been saying to her off air, you really need to start doing these types of things on your channel, which you can find by searching Michelle's Opinions on YouTube, because she just did an incredible job, and even Darkwolf agreed that she'd done an incredible job. And thank you so much, Darkwolf, as well. for carrying the first part and carrying on talking, and your professionalism really impresses me, both of you. So thank you very much for that.
You're very
Darkwolf,
welcome.
just a reminder, I can't hear you unless you're in Discord. So, Michelle, can I ask, what was your opinion on what Darkwolf was sharing earlier? Because I missed that, about the DNA changes.
You're saying that, you know, he compared it to crocheting, you know, and when you would crochet, you'd have to, if you wanted to add or change something, you'd actually have to pull the stitches out. Where this scene was more like a stretching, and it's an addition to the DNA. It's something that seems to be, I'm sorry about the dogs, guys. It seems to be something more like an awakening, an addition, and without ripping out the old. It's an addition to the DNA strand that has been newly discovered. I'll let him explain more about it since he's done the research on it.
Please.
It sounded really fascinating and amazing, and it kind of goes hand in hand with the spiritual awakening that everybody's seeing, and these heavy energies that we're dealing with, and everything.
Thank you, thank you. I mean, I have a background in biology, and I have a degree in biological sciences, and genetics is something I really enjoy, so I'm fascinated by this. So please, tell me more, Darkwolf.
Excuse me. All right. So I hope you can hear me over Discord, Amber.
I can, thank you.
Excellent, good. We got all our audio issues good to go. So on the screen right now, I do believe, yes, on the screen right now is the standard DNA, the helix or the double helical shape. As you see here, the double spirals. So the new DNA looks more like this. You can see the double helical shape come down, and then it kind of winds off into this other shape with the genes going across it, or the proteins going across it.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah, this is brand new discovery by science, ladies and gentlemen. They just discovered our DNA is
different. Lock on him so his picture shows up even if we're asking questions about it.
Let me try that. See if that works. Okay, hopefully that's on it.
So Darkwolf and I were talking about it, and it seems like, okay, if things in the 5D are maybe invisible to our 3D eyes, like say maybe additional strands of DNA being activated that we can't actually see, but they are there, the evidence of them being attached to our DNA may be like when you're crocheting something, like if you were crocheting an invisible thing onto the DNA, it would pull out strands where you hook it on, you know, and in 5D, you know, maybe these things we can't see, and maybe these new strands that are being activated in our DNA are being added. We can't see the strands, but we can see their effect on the strands they're being attached to. That was my thought.
Couldn't have said it any better myself.
I didn't hear it because I don't get to hear Kat because she can't be Discord at the same time, but it sounds like it. That was really good.
All right, so I'm going to translate it out real quick for you, Amber. Basically, what she's saying is in the 5D, if things were being added to our DNA, then it would look like it, you know, you'd have to unstrand, you'd have to pull it out, unknot a section, pull it out, add it on, and then, you know, reform it back into the DNA. If we're shadows of the 4 and 5D, which, you know, a line is a 1D shadow of a 2D object. You know, 2D objects is a shadow of a 3D object. 3D objects is a shadow of a 4th dimension object, or even a 5th dimension object. So, you know, the shadows backwards all the way down the line. If we're literally shadows of another dimension and things are being changed in this other dimension, the shadows that we would see would look quite strange. This, for instance, brand new DNA right here.
Well, what you're saying about the shadows, it reminds me of, I was watching a documentary produced recently by, I can't remember, it's a group in America, a research institute, and they were talking about their findings. And this was a really profound video for me, because the night before, I was seeing in my mind's eye a blue four-sided pyramid. And I was speaking to a friend at the time, and I asked him whether... Sorry, I just got to mute you while I'm talking a sec, Darkwolf, in Discord. So I was speaking to a friend at the time, and I was asking him whether that had anything to do with him, and it didn't. And then the next day, I just happened to click on this video someone put a link in Discord about, and it was going through this discovery, and they were talking about how the smallest particle of energy is shaped like a four-sided pyramid, and they coloured it blue on the video. So I thought, right, that's why I saw that last night, and that means that this information is significant. Well, further along, they were talking about how their discoveries have shown that our reality, the three-dimensional reality, just like you were just saying, is a mirror, is a representation of the reality in 4D. The reality in 4D is a mirror of the reality in HD, and on and on. And that the smallest particle of matter in energy in our reality is a four-sided pyramidal shape. But in the next one up, it's a totally different, it's a more complex shape because it has more dimensions. The next one up has more complex because it has more dimensions. So what you're saying about if somebody wanted to change our DNA, then all they'd have to do is change it in a higher dimension, and that would automatically factor down into ours. And this, we were talking today in Discord about Bible changes, how all somebody would have to do is change the original Hebrew Bible, and then that would percolate forward through time. So, but it would go in waves and stages. So this ties in the same sort of principle. I mean, this is absolutely fascinating. Please, fire away.
No worries at all. Yeah, that's a very good point too about the changes in the Bible and all that. Totally just lost my train of thought there. I was trying to muddle through that, but I totally lost my train of thought. The DNA, though, here's what gets me. The junk DNA is 80% of our DNA. So 80% is considered not used. If it becomes activated, that's what it would look like. Now, it would be activated by whatever measures or means, you know, but the shadows of the 5D, that is such an intriguing thought, because everything is a shadow of a 5D or 4D object, 5 or 4, either way. Trickle down, like you were talking about.
Yeah.
So if anything is changed in a higher dimension, anything, then it's going to look different here. And the Mandela effects, you know, everything changing in our sight, it's like something elsewhere is being changed, and we're seeing the shadow of it, if you will. It is one theory I've been working on lately.
Yeah, that seems to fit all the evidence that people have gathered. That, yeah. As it still doesn't explain why some people see these changes and some don't. So how would that tie into this theory, in your opinion?
Well, you know, it's funny you asked that, because I just got a call moments before we came on live. That's why I wasn't able to be here at the beginning of the show, because I got a call to go explain the Mandela effect to somebody. I shit you not. And this particular person, really great person, good friend of mine, but I'll be honest, they were very honest about it. They didn't remember a lot of stuff. Their memory just wasn't there. And that's fine. I appreciate their honesty. And I think that's a lot of it, is people just haven't paid enough attention to certain things, and sometimes think we're just nitpicking stuff apart, because it does sound like it sometimes. I'll be honest with you. Yeah. But as far as people that don't see it, A quarter, I might say, just don't care. Straight up don't care. Another quarter just haven't taken the time to remember a lot of stuff, and they're too stuck in the 9 to 5, never really paid that much attention. Then there's the group that really bug me. I haven't had a lot of interactions with this group of people, but these are the ones that will agree with you wholeheartedly until you tell them what it is now, and then they'll stop and stare off for a minute, real creepy like, and then come back and go, oh yeah, you're right, that's the way it always was, my bad, I'd stop. Those are the ones that bother me.
Yeah, I get it. I agree completely. It's so hard to tell people about the Mandela effect. Oh yeah, sorry. Oh, sorry, Michelle.
No, it's okay. What I want to say is, and it seems like what is really odd about this is it's people that are looking into the Mandela effect that are actually the naysayers. They'll argue with you. So why are they looking into something that they're actually, if they're too busy to look up and recognize it, why are they looking into it and doing research on it if something hadn't occurred? And maybe they're in denial, but some of them can be pretty harsh critics and, say it's confabulation, you've got early Alzheimer's and, things like that. But, why are they looking into it to begin with? That's my question. Why look into something if you don't see it? They have to be seeing something, or they wouldn't be looking into it to try and find the answers. So it's kind of a paradox where, we talked earlier when Darkwolf and I were on about sovereignty and the choice that people make. It's their choice whether they want to wake up and become aware, and it's up to them, how they want to have their experience. But it does fascinate me. Why are they looking into it to pick apart channels that are showing this kind of stuff? Something had to happen for them to even be looking at it. So my point.
Well, I would say on that, not everyone is looking for it deliberately. For example, when I first found out about it, it was simply somebody I knew said to me, because I'd started to look into the Illuminati, and I mentioned that to them, and they said, have you heard about the Mandela effect? And I said, no. And they sort of smiled at me and said, Google it. And so I did. And that's what got me into looking at the Mandela effect. But I also think that even those who come across it by accident on YouTube, or like I did, somebody saying to them, it's our higher self, or their higher self, something is putting that in place for them to discover the term or the video or the link or the advert or whatever to trigger their awakening into it. So I think there is definitely, in my opinion, outside forces at work here. What do you think, Darkwolf, Cat, Julian?
I actually think that it's the environment in which you're in. So there's also, you're putting out a vibration, and let's say, so when people are around me, I might be at a different vibration, because lots of times people will say they get sleepy, and that used to really bother me, especially when I was in school, having study sessions. But I think it's the environment in which that they're in, but they're probably drawn to that environment in order to have that opportunity to experience something different. I don't know. Just a thought.
Yeah. No, thank you. What do you think, Darkwolf? I mean, what do you think is drawing people to it? Or is it spiritual forces, outside energies, or what do you think?
It's funny you should ask that, because, I was listening to SMQAI the other day, and he was talking about how the Mandela effect almost seems like an entity in and of itself. Like we figure something out and it switches something else up, or doing the flip-flops, or like it's almost messing with us and mocking us sometimes. So is it an entity? I don't know. I've considered that thought more than once, an entity outside of space-time that's messing with us. I can't confirm that. What's bringing people towards it? The more changes that occur, and the more big this becomes, and the more things start to not match other people's realities and memories, the more people are going to go, wait a minute, this ain't right. There might be something to this after all. And the more they look into it, I think it would bring more and more people into it. I've also noticed, just like with the rest of the Mandela effect, people come in waves. And that's not necessarily a Mandela effect thing. I've noticed this in restaurants. People come in waves, in groups. So every now and then we'll get a new group of people who are all looking at it at the same time going, wait a minute, that's not right. Hold on, and be more intrigued. And the more things change over time, the more people are going to be, especially in different categories, going to be like, no, wait. That ain't right, you know.
Thanks. Kat, have you got anything you'd like to add? No?
No, you've got covered it.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, brilliant. What do you think about this, Michelle? Have you got any more thoughts to add?
I'm thoughtless. I do, you know, I was reading the stream and they seem to agree that they don't understand the hospital. Magi brought up a good point that a lot of times it's from fear of the unknown, fear of the uncertainty. And, you know, once you get over that, that's a big hurdle, you know, to squash that fear. Then you start, you know, ride that wave, you know, learn how to surf. It's like, it's an amazing time to be alive. So, yeah, I can see where people would, at first, the shock and the fear would come into play. And then once that settles down, it will come through in groups. Like Darkwolf was saying, you know, it's just when their group is ready, they'll start talking amongst themselves and the comfort level will come up, and then they won't feel that they're going crazy, and they'll be more accepting that, wait a minute, you know, this place is a little more, you know, malleable, and we can do more here than we ever thought we were able to. Becoming more self-aware. And the new DNA is just, I'm completely fascinated with that. I know what my homework is going to be, what I'm going to research into. So, thank you.
Thank you for that. Darkwolf, can I just remind you to unmute in Discord when you're talking? So I just wanted to ask your opinion. Do you know about the morphogenic field hypothesis?
I've heard of it, but I'll be honest, I've done so much research. Sometimes people bring stuff up. I'm like, I know what it is, but I don't know what it is. No, if you could actually re-enlighten me on that, I'd gladly appreciate it.
Sure. Okay. Well, the morphogenic field hypothesis was put out by Dr. Rupert Sheldrake. He's a biologist in England, and basically, what he's saying is that his research over many decades has given a lot of evidence that there is an energetic field that connects everything together of like type. So, for example, all humans are connected together by a morphogenic field, but each human would be connected with various different morphogenic fields. For example, there'll be a morphogenic field of a household, so including animals. There'd be a morphogenic field of lineage, so from the living descendants of the same ancestor, and then different levels of that. There'd be tribal morphogenic fields, and this includes inanimate objects. So he's saying the evidence shows, for example, that all crystals of the same type are connected morphogenically. And each new crystal, when it forms, it gets information about its final form and function from the existing population of like type. And that, for example, a baby giraffe becomes a giraffe shape because as it's developing, it's developing within and is a part of the morphogenic field of giraffes. So when I was learning about this, and he talks a lot about his evidence for telepathy and psychic phenomena using these connected morphogenic fields, it occurred to me that And he also said to say that when we look at something, our brain is picking up the morphogenic field of that object and presenting us with a picture, but our observation of the object also affects its morphogenic field. So it occurred to me that you'd only need one person, an individual human, to be born with an enhanced ability to affect the morphogenic fields that he or she perceives. And not only would he start changing physical objects, which somebody else that viewed that changed object, but then viewed another of the same type might change because of the effect of their observation. But skills and knowledge get passed among groups via this morphogenic field. So that person, that Neo in our matrix, would then pass along that enhanced ability over time, which would explain the exponential increase in affected humans for the Mandela effect. So this DNA changes. If somebody is going to be change somebody else's energy field, they also have to change the physical form of that person, because form informs function. So our bodies are like antennas, they draw in energy, and then that energy goes into our consciousness. If for our consciousness to increase or change, our physical form has to change. So I'm wondering if these DNA changes could be a result of that phenomena. Somebody changing the human DNA pattern so that ascension can occur in their consciousness, because that can't happen unless their physical form changes. What's your thoughts on that? If I made myself clear, I'm sorry.
Wow, like that is a whole lot of information to cover in a short amount of time. That was brilliant, Mel. Okay, so I believe I got everything you're saying. Morphogenic fields. I knew I'd heard of him before. I've studied Sheldrake's work. Very brilliant person. He does a lot of great work. If I'm not mistaken, he's the same one that had the speed of light story, which we can get into later if you want to. But morphogenic fields. Now, this is an intriguing thought to me. I believe he's saying pretty much the same thing Jung was saying in the Jungian philosophy of the uncollective conscious, or we call it the collective consciousness. He called it the uncollective conscious. It kind of goes along those same lines for me as far as that, because it reminds me if we're all standing in a circle, say 5 people standing in a circle, and I have a thought, but I say, no, I'm not going to say that. I'm just going to let it go. A moment later, the person 2 people over will say the exact same thing I thought without any idea that I thought it or anything else, any triggers at all. It kind of reminds me of that as far as thought literally moving through a field. It also brings up the 100 monkeys experiment, which we touched on just briefly on the 30-minute live stream we did a minute ago. The 100 monkeys experiment, to recover this just one more time, is if you teach 100 monkeys, well, if you teach 1 or 2 monkeys to do something, they'll learn. Teach 5 or 10, just those 5 or 10 will know. You get over a certain amount, in this case 100, then monkeys all over the world will start doing the thing that you taught those 100 monkeys, whether it be using a fork or whatever the case may be. Again, morphogenic fields. I believe they're saying the exact same thing in a different way. We're all connected. We're all connected to this one field. All dogs through this one field. All animals, everything through their own field. Though I disagree that everything has its own field. I think we're kind of all in one great big mixed pot. Now, that said, I like how we broke it down to family fields, because again, if you're in a group of say 5 or 6 people, there's a consciousness field within you 6. If you're within in a group of thousands of people, again, there's that consciousness stream of the thousands of people, though it may be a bit more garbled. So as far as that goes, morphogenic fields, I have heard of the research. I think it's very intriguing, and I think it could have something to do. Now, your next question, could the DNA mutation give somebody the ability to manipulate morphogenic fields, or could somebody have that ability to begin with and be manipulating it purposely or non-purposely? That, I would say, would be more along the lines of a CERN experiment, or a mad scientist who figured something out that we haven't quite figured out yet. if it is in our reality. Can one person have a full effect? It's one of those things probably I'd have to end on this thought. It's theoretically possible that you could literally wake up on Mars tomorrow, but the probability is insanely high enough that it probably won't happen.
Okay. Now, there's a few things there I want to talk about. I know Julianne wants to jump in, so I'm just going to be brief and then ask Julianne to contribute. But I agree with what you're saying. We all, the law of one, we're all part of one consciousness, one morphogenic field. But within that larger morphogenic field are smaller subsets, morphogenic fields. So, for example, all the Bibles in the world, all the King James Version Bibles existing on the planet are part of one morphogenic field. But that morphogenic field is part of a larger morphogenic field, which encompasses all of the other versions of Bibles as well. And this has been proved, like you said, with the 100 monkey experiment, but also with inorganics in labs. The effects of this connection. So, in effect, you'd only have to change one Bible for that change to percolate through all of the Bibles. Now, this might sound a bit, well, why did this never happened before? Rupert Sheldrake explains that there is evidence that the laws of nature are not fixed. What we consider in science to be constants are not constants, and there is evidence to back this up. For example, Darkwolf hinted at it, between 1920 and 1940 something, all across the world, the speed of light decreased by 20 kilometers a second for over 20 years. In order to solve this problem, they simply made up the speed of light using an average and said, right, it's a constant, and they stopped measuring it. And they tied the length of the meter to that new figure, so even if it does change, nobody would know, because the length of the meter changes with it.
He said
gravity has also been shown to be variable. So things change. And for example, whole species have been known to completely change their habits very quickly. For example, I remember seeing on a documentary, I think it was killer whales, a population of killer whales, simply changed their eating habits, their diet, wholesale overnight. Animals do change. Species and groups and populations change overnight. The laws of nature, as he describes, are more habits of nature. So everything could be changing very rapidly on the planet. All the laws, all what we consider constants, and that could include our abilities. What do you think of what's been discussed, Julianne?
You know, you're talking about the morphogenic fields and things like that, and somebody in the chat had said something about, I think they questioned if they could be competing, and I guess the thought that popped into my head was, if you think about, you know, I don't know, more condensed environment. So let's take cells for that matter. So I guess we're kind of going back to DNA. There'd have to be something like that, because otherwise your liver wouldn't be your liver, and then you have your stomach, and then your heart, and then your lungs. I mean, there'd have to be something to differentiate between that so that they could all be there. I mean, you know, if we're looking at the 3D world. Anyway, it was just a thought that popped in my head. And then because I don't know a whole lot about what you're talking about, I mean, as far as the way they explain morphogenic fields, but it's, well, I don't know if I can even go there. Sorry, I just don't know if I could add something, but I did this, when I did this regression not too long ago, one of the first things that I saw, I was actually out in space and I could see this giant cosmic swirling DNA made of clusters of stars. And so that was my experience to see that. And somebody had also mentioned in the chat something about, if I can find it, I'll have to take a peek through it just to see and get back to that. So I apologize. I lost it. I should be writing these things down as you go because it just this flows and there's just so much that can.
It's fine. It's fine.
So yeah, you said something about dominoes. You expand on that? What you were saying something about tripping over dominoes?
Oh, well, it's just, I mean, it's that whole effect of how things happen exponentially. So, you know, it's like one thing gets into the space and then it, you know, knocks over the next one and the next one. And then, you know, it just grows. That's all. And I think we're ready for that. I think this is a time that we're all ready for it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We are ready for it. I think we're going to have to be because so many things are changing so rapidly. And I remember when I first got interested in the Mandela effect. I don't know if you remember this, Darkwolf. Did you ever come across this on? I think it was Reddit or 4chan or one of those. There was a post brought up, and it was an individual. And if I recall, it was saying it was a clone. It was working on a server, and it was explaining the Mandela effect to the other people by saying, basically, they're having to switch servers, and somebody is preventing the memory upgrades. And it was a lot of discussion up time, and this was like a Neo, because this person, he said, they couldn't find him. They were trying to find him to stop the effect, but it was the presence, the existence of this one person was preventing the humans from their memories from being upgraded efficiently, which is why there was glitches and people were misremembering because they were remembering the previous version, not the updated version. And he was talking about the anatomical changes at the time and why, and to help us deal with toxicities, etc. And of course, it was a lot of videos on about it at the time because it was basically referring to reality being some sort of computer simulation and where avatars within it. So again, this reminds me of that, the morphogenic field hypothesis, and then the DNA changes. Because there's another researcher, I can't remember his name. I was reading his book, and his specialism was in computers, making computer board processor things. Anyway, and he was writing about the chakras, and the reason it got him interested in the chakras because when he started to apply his knowledge of designing computer things and started looking at the physical anatomy of humans, he noticed how to him, our spine was like an electrical circuit board where we had nexus nodes for each chakra, and he could actually find them in the spinal cord and the anatomy of humans. And he was explaining how what I was saying about the energy that's drawn in has to be changed, transmuted by our physical form to then form the overall shape of our energy body and its function. So this is why I'm tying in what he was saying, that in order for things to change people's consciousness, their actual physical anatomy has to change as well, because that is what creates, he was saying, the overall form and function of our energy body here at this time. So I'm losing the thread of my thoughts now, but this is why I was tying it all in anyway. You got any thoughts on that, Darkwolf?
So I know exactly.
I've forgotten where I was going with it.
Let me get unmuted here over in the. Sorry, I almost forgot to mute over here. All right, so I know exactly what you're saying. So let's go back to Jeremy real quick. Jeremy of the Collective. That's what that post was on Reddit. As much as I enjoyed that, and I have kind of stuck that back in the back file just in case, you know, it makes any more sense or I find any more evidence to back it. As intriguing a thought as it is, I think it's just somebody presenting a theory in more of a lark style, to be honest with you. I don't believe it personally as far as, because we would have more evidence at this point if that were the case, honestly. So I think it's a little bit of bollocks, but just the same, you know, can't deny anything anymore. Every time I say I disagree with something, I end up having, you know, make retractions. I really don't know. Like, it's an intriguing thought. Could one person manipulate the morphogenic field enough to, it would have to be somebody who knew what they were doing at this point, to cause flip-flops, to cause all the different body changes, to cause all that. It would really have to be somebody who really knew exactly what they were trying to do and what they were going after. DNA changes.
Actually,
go ahead.
Just before you go on, you see, this is what I'm thinking. It's not like that. So Rupert Sheldrake is explaining that when I look at my laptop, my brain is seeing the energy of the laptop, not what I'm actually think I'm seeing. It's seeing the energy it's made up of. The image that's given to me is a process of my brain giving me what appears to be solid. But the effect of my observation on it can affect it. Now that we know that, because science has proven that. So what I'm saying is that if one person was born with an enhanced ability of having an increased amount of effect on the things that they observe, it's not that they're doing it deliberately. It's that, say, for example, Febreze. I'm just going to pick one out of the top of my head. The Febreze logo. This person misremembered the Febreze logo. So when he observed a bottle of Febreze in a supermarket, because he remembered it being spelled differently, he automatically, subconsciously changed it. Now, because all Febreze bottles are morphogenically connected, that change then percolates through the entire population of Febreze bottles that exist at that time. He also, every person he's closely connected to, like a family member, morphogenically, emotionally, through telepathy, is transmitting this enhanced ability to do this to somebody else. Some of those might then also display this enhanced ability and transmit it to other people whilst changing things they're observing, not deliberately. So to me, this thing could spread throughout the human population very quickly, both by people observing the changed objects and then through their own enhanced ability, changing the next one they see, as well as it being transmitted psychically, telepathically. And nobody even needs to be aware of what's happening.
I follow exactly what you're saying. I follow exactly. Can you hear me? Just make sure.
Yes, yes.
Okay, because I pulled the headphones out of the phone. Just want to make sure you can still hear me. All right, so that right there, now that's to say that that could be the connection of everybody that's Mandela affected. That could be the missing piece that we haven't figured out. Maybe we're all within that one morphogenic field, or are that one person, if you will, that is changing reality. Now, that's an interesting thought. Maybe it's possible. It could be something, could be the fact that we're all empaths. Maybe that's why we're all picking up this particular person, if you will, just running with the idea for a moment, this particular person's abilities or whatnot. Because if they're empathic or even telepathic for that matter, and can send it outwards, maybe only into those on that one frequency or one wavelength, brain wavelength, if you will, like all of us, only the ones who have empathy, something to that effect. It could explain why we have only a certain group of the entire world population, mind you, that sees this and others don't. I can follow that thinking. I'm not 100% on that, but the theory I like.
Yeah. But it goes back to the 100 monkey experiment.
Hey, I just want to say, whoever's changing all this stuff needs to go back and take grammar and English and learn how to spell. That's all. That's all.
This would explain it. The standard of education these days.
Nobody knows how to spell. Breeze has two E's in it, guys. It always has. But Breeze had two E's in breeze. I mean, they are. I mean, weather is now like weather, like it's rainy outside weather instead of weather or not. I mean, it's just crazy. The whole thing's off the chains. Now weather is spelled W-H instead of the W-E-I. I don't know, man. Either I need to go back to school, but I was really good with spelling. I got, A's in those classes, but I would fail today. The spelling now is, I try to make a text chat and my phone is putting all these weird ass words in there. It's like, what? The heck is that?
I know. Yeah, I get it. But it would make sense. And, but we're no different from a population of rats or monkeys. What about the years ago? The monkeys, I can't remember where they were, a tribe of monkeys were taught by humans. They fed them potatoes on the beach. I learned this when I was at uni, back in the early 2000s. And they were taught how to take the potatoes into the sea and scrub them before eating them. But then what scientists found was that skill was then appearing in monkey populations all over the world who live by the sea. They were washing their food in the sea, and they'd never been taught. So the same thing would happen with us, that you just get one new thing and it would transmit. For example, IQ tests. When they brought out IQ tests in the Western world, there was a standard average IQ score. And what happened was, what they found over time, they haven't changed the test, but the average IQ scores has increased. And that's because as more people take the test, they become better at learning how to get a higher score on the test. And that skill then gets transmitted through the population. So every time somebody takes a test, they're just a little bit better at answering the questions right. Doesn't mean their IQs have gone up. There's no evidence of that. Okay. Kat, are you here? Can you talk?
Yes. I'm here.
Brilliant. I don't know if you're talking right now, but fire away if you've got anything to add.
Yeah, she is definitely available. Sorry, I forgot you can't hear her.
That's okay. Have you got any thoughts on this, Kat?
Well, I was thinking if every observer has some kind of effect on the morphophogenetic field, and we're all observers, if we start observing what we want to see and manipulating the morphophogenec field ourselves to what we want the world to be, I mean, it seems like, we're observers. We can have an effect on this field. We can take control. Maybe there are others accidentally or on purpose manipulating things, but I think we have that same ability. We just need to hone in on how to use it to our highest and best.
Absolutely. Thank you. Actually, I can hear you through somebody else on Discord. So that was great. So it's about we're just learning a new skill, aren't we? It's about becoming consciously aware of what we're doing and then directing it. Do you agree with that, Darkwolf, or do you think it's coming from above and we can't influence it?
I've been torn on that for quite a while, to be honest with you, because I've been running an experiment, personal experiment. There's only one or two people that know about this, and I want to keep it that way so I don't influence anything or anybody. But I've been trying for a specific product, concentrating on a specific change and trying to see if that thing will change. So far, I've not had any luck at all. Perhaps if you have a big enough group, well, I say perhaps, let me rephrase. If you have a big enough consciousness stream, this is pretty much fact at this point. and this consciousness stream is all concentrating on one thing, then yeah, if there's enough amplitude of the frequency, I believe that could cause a reality change. Major observation by a large amount of people with the intent to change that, whatever the case may be. As far as a single person, this is why I have an issue with the single person theory. Now, mind you, I have been on entity theory, so I will work that in. It really works well with that idea. But the reason I have a problem with saying one person can change things is because I personally have been working on an experiment for a couple months and I've not seen my object change just yet.
Okay, that's a really interesting experiment. See, this is where I am with it. I'll try and clarify it. See, I believe that we are part of soul families and soul groups. So, for example, there is a large population of humans on the earth, which I believe are descended from, for example, from Jesus Christ. And so Jesus Christ is now considered to be an ascended master and in the spirit world. So all of his descendants are morphogenically connected to him, and that is by some sectors referred to as being, for example, of Christ consciousness. It means that you're part of that morphogenic field of consciousness, all descended from that one individual. Funnily enough, it will be in a pyramidal shape. Now, so say, for example, everybody who's Mandela affected at the moment is descended from the same ascended master. Let's just say, for argument's sake, Jesus Christ. I think there's other ones as well. I think on the same level as Jesus Christ, you've got entities like Ra, and ones like that who have their own pyramidal morphogenic descendants as well. Enki, Enlil, well, I think they'd probably be a bit further up the tree. So you would have this change would then, if it happened at a higher level in the spirit world, the soul family level or the oversoul level or whatever level, then all the souls within that group would then be automatically affected. So it wouldn't necessarily be one human, but it could just be one oversoul. You know, in the Bible where it says things like, I don't know, I think it says there's only 144,000 souls on the planet. I think that's probably absolutely correct, but I don't think they're talking about individual spirits here on this plane. They're talking about further up the hierarchy in one of the higher dimensions, one of these levels, like soul family, oversoul. So that's why we're all connected. We're all connected morphogenically to our own lineage, if you like, from whatever level, say the Jesus Christ consciousness level, the Ra consciousness level, but both the Jesus Christ consciousness level and the Ra consciousness is also connected from a higher level again. So this is what I think. I think it is coming from above in a higher dimension, all these changes. But we're doing it as well. It's percolating down to us, and then we're also affecting it on this level as well. Because it's nothing happens in isolation. It's all like a feedback loop.
You know what?
And I'll just finish one second.
No, I don't want you to finish it.
All right.
If they were so worried about everybody being related, and you were just reading that in your scriptures, remember? Remember the lineages? So you're really onto something. That's all I was going to say, sweetie.
Thank you. Thank you. So, yes, I do think that everybody who is Mandela affected is related. We are descended from a progenitor back in time, and that means we are all one soul family. And that as time goes on, more loosely connected soul family members will also be affected. So this is why I think we're getting waves of new affected people. Imagine it's like throwing a stone into a lake and seeing the ripples come out. Each ripple is, say, another soul family. and then there's wider ripple and a wider ripple and a wider ripple. And each one of those is another cohort of people being affected through time. So I do think we are all related. If you look at your family tree, look at your surnames in your family and see where they originated from. And most of the people I've asked, and I admit it's not many, but I'll be interested to see where your families originate from. See if they originate from royalty. See if they originate from the Merovingian line. Because if they do, then that's my hypothesis. We are actually all related. Anyway, fire away. I'm going to shut up now. Anyone, jump in.
I'm going to step back. If anybody else wants to say anything, go ahead.
I know. I just was seeing the correlation with, you know, when you look at scriptures and things like that, that they always want to name like the descendant of blah, 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 and go back. And so there could be some validity to what she is saying. Not that we are the children of Christ. I'm not, you know, wouldn't be so bold to even to make, you know, such an assumption. But what I'm saying is, in the scriptures, they were very good about saying the son of this one, the son of this one, the son, you know, and they would go back, you know, several generations to tie that family tree. And, you know, there's a reason for that. And so I'm just thinking on the broader scale of things, that what she's saying could make some sense here to why it seems like some people are waking up, you know, while others are still, you know, kind of just going through things, you know. But I also, on the flip side of that coin, I do believe when it comes down to the nuts and bolts of it, we will all wake up in our time, because we are all just, if you go all the way back, Adam and Eve are the beginning, you know, so if you go by the scriptures, so that would make us all related, you know, in some way or another, whether separated by generations and whatever, and moved away, you know, but we would all come from that same two people, meaning we're all brothers and sisters. But through time, as ascended masters have come through, or savior type people, you know, there could be a stronger lineage towards, you know, tying them to that, or royalty per se. But still, if you continue to go backwards, you would still see that we all still originated from the same basic two people. So, you know, it's all in our time. Everybody will become self-aware, and it's just a wonderful thing. And I really liked the perspective that she gave there. It was pretty clear and easy to follow and very understandable. Thank you, Mel. I'm sorry that I interrupted you. I just got too excited because it goes along with your, you know, the readings that you're doing. And it was kind of funny because if you actually were like, oh, I'm just not going to read all these names of all these people that are related. And so that's what made it stick in my mind, because you didn't want to fumble over all of those names. But all of those names were important because they were saying the relation to the next generation. You see what I'm saying? And here you are speaking about it today. And so everything kind of falls into place, you know, just like a neat little package as you're solving these riddles. It's just amazing. It's just amazing. I just love it.
Yes. Thank you. You're right. Sorry, I will bring you in the sec, Darkwolf. I'm just going to remind you before I do to unmute your Discord when you talk. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's thank you very much. I know it's controversial to say Jesus Christ is progeny. I understand that, especially for Americans, I think. You know, us in Britain, we're not that, you know, religious in a way. You know, we don't read the Bible much or anything like that. So I think it's a more acceptable thing to be talked about here. So I'm sorry, I don't want to offend anybody, but I'm also not going to keep quiet in case it does offend anybody, because this is my thoughts. However, I've also been just studying religion from the monotheistic point of view. And one thing that's very important from the very first days in the monotheistic family of religions is lineage, what Michelle was saying. And in fact, when you read the Old Testament, which I'm starting to do, then you'll find it keeps being drummed into them. Their most important thing is lineage, 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 descendants, descendants, descendants. Your descendants will have nations. Your descendants will rule the world and defeat all the other nations. So right from the very beginning, it was this idea, lineage, lineage, which descendants will form nations and your nations will be king or whatever, better than the other ones. It was all about competing nations of people descended from the same lines. And this again reminds me of this morphogenic field, and that the nations, the people who are the same race, share morphogenic fields. However, there aren't that many lines today that have kept their genetic lineage pure. So, but who has kept their genetic lineage purer than most? Think about that. And why do they do that? Why do they practice endogamy right from the very beginning and still do? What is the purpose of that? What is this fascination or this abhorrence in many of them about mixed breeding with outside peoples? So all of this, it makes you wonder whether these gods, because I believe it's gods, not God, they understood this. But their way to explain it to their people was not to explain about morphogenic fields and energy and physics, but to just say the most important thing is your descendants and lineage and keeping your bloodline pure. So anyway, fire away, Darkwolf, and yeah, hopefully I can hear you. You need to, sorry, Darkwolf, you need to unmute on Hangouts as well.
Where would you like me to start now?
I'm going to have a cigarette. Go for it.
Wow. So I was just looking into the whole morphogenic field thing. I'm gonna go ahead and pop up screen share here real quick and just kind of ramble on for a minute because I don't really know what you were asking, truth be told. So screen sharing here. So I was looking into morphogenic field, and this is quite interesting. It actually comes out of biology. The development of biology in the early 20th century, a morphogenic field is a group of cells able to respond to discrete, localized biochemical signals, leading to the development of specific morphological structures or organs. Which, like she was saying, giraffe looks like a giraffe, an elephant looks like an elephant. We look weird. I mean, look like humans. So, so it really intrigues me, some of this stuff. The morphogenic engine, the process which enables individuals on the verge of complete madness to control sentient nanoswarm. Okay, I don't know what that is. I just got lost on that one. I'm looking for a certain concept here that I was just, the morphic field, an energy-like field that defined the entire biology of all living beings. The idea was put forth by a scientist named Sheldrake in the 20th century. It provides a force to guide the development of an organism as it grew, making it take on a form similar to other species. I just love where you're going with that, with the DNA. That something could change the morphogenic field to literally change the DNA. And again, we could be talking 3D terms of a 5D effect also. The shadow effect, once again. There's one other thing I want to touch here real quick. And I don't see it in here. So back to all being related real quick. That is one thing that I haven't really considered yet, mainly because I don't know all of my DNA, is if we are all from maybe the same patriarch or the same general beginnings. That's a really interesting question. I think is great, because that would also expand to everybody across the world. I've also been thinking, going biblical real quick, what if we are the tribes of Israel returning together too? What if we ourselves are a single tribe coming together that's been spread across the earth? That's also crossed my mind. Yeah. What do you think on that?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think we are basically one tribe. And I don't think it means, I've got siblings and they're not affected. Well, one is, one isn't. But just because, say, we are siblings doesn't mean we're all going to be affected, because your DNA does key into it. There are variations in each individual as they're born. Genes are switched on, switched off, and epigenetics can alter that through your lifetime. So there is more to it than simply being descended from a specific lineage as to when you're going to be affected. There's going to be environmental factors. There's going to be dietary factors, all of which affecting your DNA. But if you can, this is my hypothesis, if you contain the specific genes required for perceiving the Mandela effect, as soon as those genes are activated, then you will perceive it. But I do think, and that can change with your diet, it can change with simply becoming healthier, it can change with your consciousness. So there's more to it, but I do think underlying it, it's about your lineage.
So if I may interrupt, and I apologize if I'm being rude with that, Seeker of Truth in the chat just brought up something, and I know you've seen this research before, so I just had a thought occur. And again, this is a theory, only based in conjecture and opinion. But Seeker of Truth said there were experiments, and I know you remember these, Mel, where frogs' eggs were turned into salamanders, beaming the DNA info through one group to another. Now, that said, let me carry that thought to a further line of thinking. So if we carry this down the line, laser light or light in general carried the DNA to the egg from one species to another. I remember that experiment myself. Very intriguing work that was. If there was a different DNA, now this is conjecture, all conjecture and theory. If there was a different DNA that was passing through above us in space, say, and the sunlight shining down on all of us would project this onto us, it would literally, put the new DNA in place, if you will. Again, theory and conjecture, I just literally thought of this.
No, I completely agree, because I've been saying this for a while. This is what I think chemtrails are. They are spraying us with genetic material, and that's been discovered. And the sun has changed the frequency of light being emitted, and that light is passing through genetic material in our atmosphere. And then that information, the photonic memory of that genetic material, is being absorbed by us and all life on the planet. It's changing it can change our DNA. So yeah, I think that ties into it. And you've got to ask, is it planes leaving those chemtrails? Because so many people have seen them. They're not planes. They're UFOs. They're certainly not human-made. That's been seen many times. So who's doing it? Somebody could be changing us.
Hold on, I got to mute somebody here. We had someone come into the Discord, and I forgot to have them on mute. Okay, there we go. All right. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. The chemtrails, they are using biological information. That could very well be coming through the light into our own DNA. I didn't even think about that. Sharkcase said the new DNA appears and disappears. It's like a ball of string. Of all the analogies she could have used, a ball of string. We were just talking about the crochet analogy. That is amazing. I love it. I love it. But light,
exactly.
Light is a key to this whole thing. Whether you're talking Mandela effect or DNA or anything else. I noticed you had Lightworkers in the YouTube description box or name box of the video title box. Light is a huge key. Even when you start going into the ascension discussions and raising to 4 and 5D, we become light bodies, which was also spoken about by the Buddhists and a whole lot of other cultures way back when.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, we are light. That's what we are. We're in avatars, but we are light. So we're just energy. So yeah, it all goes back to light, which is it's just energy. I don't know where I'm going with this. Yeah, exactly. I mean, we are light workers, aren't we? So in all in our various different ways. And in
And
fact,
what does
Michelle
that
can
even
talk
mean?
about this a lot.
Light worker. What does that
Michelle,
even mean?
fire away.
I'm sorry. I was looking at the chat, and Yats asked who prays every night. Well, let's address that first because he brought that up in the chat. Prayer can be in several forms, whether it be meditation, prayer form, praying in tongues, communing with higher self, God, Holy Spirit. There's many different forms. So if you ask who prays every night, I would probably guess that just about everybody does some form of prayer when we're communicating and getting messages to either pass out as a messenger, which is going to stem right into a light worker. Being a light worker, there's an array of different things that light workers do, and they do multiple jobs. It's not that one light worker does one thing and another does another. All light workers, from what I found out through testimony and from my own experiences, we can all do all different jobs. We go where our passion is, whether it be healing, praying, healing the planet, manifesting, all of these wonderful things. But, and a lot of times light workers will not even know how much work they're doing, because when they go to bed at night, a lot of times a light worker will wake up the next morning exhausted because actually they were out working all night long. So there's many different forms that light workers, of work that is done by them, but it is done with a joyful heart and with gratitude. It's not like the 9 to 5 where you begrudge going to work every day. It is something that you take pleasure in doing to lift up mankind, from taking us from the human state back to the mankind state. It's like we're being, and it said that in the Bible too, that, we would get confused and lost, almost shattered, for 6 days, and on the 7th day we'll return to paradise. It just seems like as we have come out of Pisces and are into a new age of Aquarius, that a lot of restoration is taking place. And as people are waking up and light workers are doing their jobs, they just do it by nature. It's a natural thing, and it's a passion in their heart. More people are waking up. I think just about everybody in here would say that, when I woke up in 2012, it was a very lonely walk. Now there's whole communities built up, and we are all in this together. It's oh my gosh, you guys, it's just wonderful to see people coming out. I hope she doesn't mind, but the lady I know, that she goes by the handle of Kimber Vibe. Well, she has a passion for her gifts and how she applies her gifts. Well, she got acknowledged by a channel called Higher Self, and she is just walking in her passion, doing her work, her light work, and is loving every minute of it, and she's reaping the rewards. And it's all about hitting our stride and going for the gusto. And some of us are messengers, some of us are healers. We've got a member in our community that does Reiki healing. She'll do physical therapy on people and actually physically massage their body, but on the spiritual level, she's working on them with her Reiki. And these abilities are wonderful, just absolutely wonderful. And every single one of us has multiple abilities. We're capable of all of them. It's just a matter of our passion, where our heart goes. So I wouldn't try to minimize anybody, because it's every single one of them is just as important as the other. And we are all in this together. And, I can see in the near future where everybody is going to be, doing their passion, being light workers, being in light bodies. As these things are changing, it does seem like, there may be some terraforming going on in the planet, to change the conditions that's going to be suitable for our new expansion with our awareness. And these avatars are going to have to be adjusted to the new abilities that we're walking into. It's just a wonderful thing, you guys. like I said, it's just, I'm so excited to be alive at this time and partake in this. And I'm thankful that I was not too rigid, that I was not pliable, to go with the flow, you know, go with the river. I'm not trying to swim against it anymore. I'm flowing with it. It's a beautiful thing, guys. But yeah, I would not say any job is higher than the other. I'd say, you know, we're all in this together, and as soon as somebody hits their stride, it's a wonderful thing to see.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Michelle. Yeah. Agree with everything you're saying. And I think this is where channeling comes in. Because from what I know now, the experience I had, which is similar to what you experienced, you talk about in your channel, Michelle, what you call a Holy Spirit baptism. To me, that is channeling. And what way I perceive it is, once you open yourself up to accessing that energy, the updates come down. And they change.
The labels fall away. That is something else that happens.
Yeah, exactly. And what I think happens is it changes our consciousness first, which then creates it's like a feedback system. So your consciousness is triggered to change. That changes your physical anatomy, changes your DNA, which changes your physical anatomy, which changes your consciousness, and it's a constant cycle that begins that moment when you open yourself up to God, source, higher self, whatever you want to call it, that feeling of love. And that to me is channeling, and why so many of us channel now. We have these messages coming in, we have this knowing coming in, this guidance coming in much more strongly than ever before, at least for me. What some people would call praying, other people would call channeling. To me, it's the same thing.
Well, you know, that's like the ancients had a word for it was meditation, and the Buddhists believe in meditation. The Christian call it praying. The New Agers call it law of one. We're all saying the exact same thing. It's all about manifestation in the end. It's how you're using your ability to manifest, whether you're asking a creator, whether you're using your own mental ability, whether you believe you're asking the universe for it, however you believe on it. It's all saying manifestation. They're just using a different lingo each time to say the exact same thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. And your experiment, I mean, what if, for example, when you manifest something and you want to manifest something, it's not up to your conscious being. That desire goes higher, up into your higher self, maybe even to your soul family and higher still. And the decision is made there because it's still you. It's just not a you that you're fully aware of.
That's to
it's
say,
deciding whether that is okay or not.
That's to say, like with a psychic, are you getting a psychic impression, or did you make it happen?
Exactly. Yeah, I've been thinking about this recently. I was thinking of doing a video on it. What is the difference between precognition, and manifestation? Because I've had many experiences that I would categorize as one or the other. But when I think about it, I'm not sure what the difference is. And remote viewing and other psychic phenomena, what is the difference? Because what if it's all the same thing? I mean, if there's no time in the upper dimensions, then simply because you foresaw events doesn't mean you didn't manifest those events that you then foresaw earlier. Because if there's no time, there's no past or future.
Right.
So it's all the same thing. At the end of the day,
Right, and I've wondered that for a long time, and that's one of those paradoxes that will send you in so many circles in your head. You just got to give up for a couple minutes and wait. Stop. I can't do this. My head's gonna blow up. I can't. And that's why I love paradoxes, because I can go in circles for hours and still come up with zero answers. It's great, just like the Mandela effect.
I don't think we're ever going to know for sure. I don't think we can.
Well,
You know,
I think the only thing that we know is that we don't know, but it's fascinating.
Here.
Exactly.
Now, if I may jump in real quick, Mel, I want to ask Michelle on this Lightworkers. You mentioned working in your dreams and working in your sleep. Could you explain more of that to me? I would love to hear more about that.
Okay. From my experience, there's been times that I go to bed and I get a good night's rest, a good, 7 to 8 hours sleep, and I'll wake up exhausted. But I would possibly be having vivid dreams. I would see things that are going to happen in the future. I've seen many occasions where, I'll wake up the next day, I'll tell my husband about something, and a week or a month later, we'll walk through that very thing that I saw in my dream. I mean, down to the detail. I don't know if you've watched any of my videos, but in January of 2015, this made me laugh. I saw a split screen, okay, and on one side of it was completely dark, and on the other side of the screen was all lit up, red, white, and blue balloons, white tablecloths, crystal stemware, goldware, beautiful, everything. It was really brightly lit. Everybody was dressed to the hilt, all in formal wear. And Mr. Trump was walking around the tables, shaking hands with people and talking to them. And I heard, like, over a PA system, 270 electoral votes for Trump. And I was like, what? Well, he had just raised his hand, and he was going against 17 actual politicians. We really thought it was a joke. I shared it with my husband. We're like, okay, we're going to write this one down. Well, then he becomes the nominee, and then he's on the ticket, and then he won the election. Now, realize, though, when I had the dream, I didn't hear the amount that was needed for to win the election. But by the split screen and the other side being so dark, it was just showing me this is what's going to happen. So I wrote that one down, and after he won, we dug it out and saw that it was right after he came down the famous escalator thing, and we thought it was a joke. So, these abilities, and which is a kind of a confirmation to me that the things that we're doing in our sleep, the work, when you're waking up really tired and groggy, there's a lot of energy that we're putting out of unconditional love, forgiveness, healing, mending, and it's a beautiful thing. It's almost like our conscious mind, that while we're participating, needs to just shut down and allow our higher self or Holy Spirit or Source God takes over at that time, and we run around. I've had many of experiences where I find myself walking around my house, and I try to turn on a light, and I figure out I'm not in my body. I'm actually walking around my house in spirit form. And the way that I found out now how to figure out if I'm doing that is I go after a light switch. If I can't turn the light on, I'm not in my body. So then I'm like, okay, I'm just kind of tooling around. So that verified to me that while we're sleeping, we're doing a lot more than we think we are for the betterment of all people. And it's a wonderful thing, guys. I mean, I think we will see the benefits, and we already are. Because this is not something new. This is something that's been going on for at least a decade or so that I am aware of. And so the path finders or the path walkers that are trudging down that pathway, making it easier for others to follow along behind. It's like they had to go and brush that path off and make it visible for others to come along. And it's not a hierarchy type of a thing, so don't be mistaken on that. There's no first, no last. Everybody's equal. But I do think that the work has been being done, and it's the path is more lit up, and it's easier for people to find it, and people are coming along much faster. Where it would take somebody 10 or 20 years to do something, people are getting it done. And let's talk Mel's case. In 2 years, she has jumped, so far with her progression. Where, I started in 2012, and she's like, telling me things that, that I dealt with in 2013, 2014, and she's going boom, 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 right through these things. It's amazing. And just to hear these people rising to the occasion and then coming to life and working with the very, because if you take away everything from us, our bodies and everything, we are pure unconditional love. That's our essence. All this other stuff, that we go through in life, that's kind of like the lie part of us, where all we are is light and unconditional love. But we're
Michelle,
here to expand.
If I may interrupt you real quick, let me touch back on the dreams just real quick, specific dreams. I know you kind of mentioned walking around in spirit form in your house.
Yes.
If I just may ask, is there specific dreams that a light worker would have that like all light workers would mostly have?
I don't know about that really, Darkwolf. The only ones that I can verify are from my own experience. I don't jump into other people's dreams, and I can go by what other people have shared. There's been similar stories of people having those out-of-body experiences and finding a touchstone so they know if they're in their body or not. I think you were on Uni Rock's show when I woke up and I was panicking because I was on another planet and I saw 7 Earths in the sky. I was like, where am I? What's going on? And I saw all of these, like they look like little, how would I describe them? Like maybe like a bullet, but they were like totally oval shape. And I was given the impression it was free energy. And there was a mountain of them, and I was wearing these glasses, and when there was this vehicle to pick us up, and I almost took my glasses off, and they're like, no, don't take your glasses off until you're in the vehicle. And I was like, oh. So I was somewhere different. So I really don't know if people have the similar experiences, but you can have a feeling of, here's the common ones that I feel when I'm in some kind of a dream state doing things. I feel like I'm either like gliding, like on ice skates or something, but without no skates, I'm gliding. Or I feel like I'm flying, like I have wings and I'm flying. And sometimes I can actually get to the point where I realize I'm dreaming, and if a situation is going on around me, I can actually lift myself up off of the ground and look down on the situation and look at it from a different perspective. But these are things that I've learned over time. I didn't start out that way. It started out with, I was like, what the heck is going on? But over time, I'm becoming more consciously aware in my dreams. So
the reason that I asked that is I've spoken to one or two other people about this. I've had this dream before, and I ain't gonna say recurring because it really wasn't, but I have had this dream before where I guess it kind of is recurring randomly. I'm pretty much in a dark area. There's nothing really around me. I'm kind of in the dark, but in front of me, there's something that I'm sorting. I want to say it's cards or something, but it's like I'm sorting something. And I've got to get this done. I'm sorting this over here and I'm putting that over there, and I got to get it where it goes. And I don't know what it's about or what it means or anything like that, but it's like working in the dream. And that's what kind of triggered that and reminded me. That's why I was asking.
Well, then, just because you're not aware of it, like I said, there's a whole list of different jobs. And, if you're a light worker, you're already doing the work. You're doing it in your sleep and in your waking time. So whether you're conscious of it or not, you're still doing it. So obviously, they're pointing it out to you in a way that it's puzzling your mind to try and figure out what's going on. Riddles are something else that, they like to do riddles and puzzles because we are, as a people, we like to solve things. We like to, you know, fill in crossword puzzles and word searches, and, you know, that's our nature. So by showing you something like that, you are more than likely doing a lot of work at night, and you're trying to figure out what's going on with you, and they're showing it to you as a puzzle. But if I was you, I would, you know, go into prayer, meditation, seek from within. You'll get the confirmation. You'll know. They'll tell you. There's nothing that they're not trying to hide it from you. They're just waiting for you to ask.
Gotcha. I appreciate that. I'll definitely do some more studying that. Go ahead, Mel.
I think there are like 3 types of dreams that we remember. There are the Lightworker dreams, where we're all doing things in the astral plane. And I don't think we always remember those, or that even everybody does remember them, but I think some people do remember some of them. I think there are other types of dreams which are preparatory dreams to prepare you for significant events that are upcoming in your life. So that this makes things like deja vu, which I think are signpost moments within your life. So they're significant moments, choice points. And you dreamed those before because so that you will have an extra sense about the importance and significance of those moments. Perhaps it's to make sure you stay on the right track during those moments, because if you veered off it, it would have disastrous effects perhaps, or profound effects. The rest of the time you can weave around your path, but certain points need to be as they are planned. And the other dreams are dreams that are karmic. So they are dreams in which you can work on residual emotional issues from previous lifetimes. And that only by resolving those can you then achieve your maximum growth in this lifetime. And then the other dreams that I don't think we really remember are simply the ones that our brain's just processing memories of that day. And I don't have many recurring dreams, but as a child, I had certain ones. And to me, I always understood that was me trying to resolve issues in this lifetime. So it could be any of those, Darkwolf, your dream, basically. But to me, when you're saying it, what's in my head is that's karma. That's something from a past life. So whether that means it is or not, I'm just going to give that to you. But that was going through my head, which is why I explained this when you were talking about your dream.
I much appreciate that. And it could be. It could very well be sorting karma, or you could be sorting anything, really. You kind of stuck and triggered when she said that. I was like, I wonder if that's connected. Because I've spoken to 1 or 2 other people who said about that before, too. Kat, do you have anything you want to throw in on this real quick?
Actually, I want to interject on that, Mel. I'm picking up his energy, and no, it's not karma. No, it's a puzzle, it just, he needs to confirm, you know, that he's doing this work. He's doing it. He's just not aware of it, and he's seeking for that answer. But it's not you're not sorting karma. That's not it at all. I'm sorry, but I'm not trying to disagree with you, Mel. That was a good, you know, a good way. It's good, you know, opposite of, you know, because somebody could be sorting karma if they're looking at cards or whatever. But from Darkwolf, that's not what it is. It's just seek from within. You'll get the answer. You'll get the answer. I think you already know the answer, but you know, if you want a solid confirmation, just press through and you'll get it.
Thank you for your perspective, Michelle. Kat, are you there? Do you want to add anything to this? No. Doesn't look like it.
No, I don't think she has anything to add to this.
Okay. All right. Let's just see if there's any questions in chat. Unless you got anything to add to this, Darkwolf, Michelle?
I think we pretty much touched on it. If anybody has any questions in the chat, for some reason I'm I'm opened up. My vessel opened up. I really don't want to feel a whole bunch of things. I'm gonna probably try to push back because sometimes you know how we can connect. I'm having connections, and so I might shy away a little bit. But yeah, this has been a really good conversation. Good energy. There's a lot of, even though we're going through a lot of energy fluctuations right now, you got a good vibe going on right now with your group.
Okay. Anyway, I'm tired. Is anyone else got anything to add before I finish the stream?
Yes, I do. For those who don't know, once again, I am Darkwolf of Darkwolf's Den on YouTube. Make sure you go over and check us out. We do the Mandela Effect Theory series, as well as many live stream discussions and theories, theorizations and whatnot, and evidence research as we can on live chat. So when we have the chance, we do that. I always try to release content when I have something good. I don't do daily content, but when I do, I try to make it something really, really interesting. So make sure you go over there and check us out, guys. Mel, I thank you so much for having me on. It's been an absolute honor and a pleasure. I've much appreciated it and enjoyed it.
Thank you. And likewise, thank you for coming on. And it's really good to, I know you've been so busy, so we haven't had that much time to catch up, but it's really great to catch up. I'll end by also saying Kat has a YouTube channel. Is it Cat Mountain? Mountain Cat?
Mountain Cat.
Thank you. So please search for that. And Michelle has a YouTube channel, fabulous, called Michelle's Opinions. And my other YouTube channel is called Amber's Place. So check them all out. And thank you for coming. And thank you guys for being here. I'm sorry about all the technical issues earlier. Okay, bye.